This conference will now be recorded.
So yesterday we started and we went through entire course content. We are we are going to cover in this session dimensions, models, whatever we required for financial planning, as for HANA financial planning or SAC integrated financial planning. We are going to develop stories, forecasting templates, input templates. We are going to use collaboration tools, process controls, validation rules, right? And we are going to discuss all the financial planning processes like operational expenses planning, product cost planning, capital expenditure planning, financial statement planning. Yeah, also sales and profitability planning. So the main objective of S4HANA financial planning to develop planned income statements, right? When I say planned income statements, the income statement by line of business, it may be. So another language in SAP language, uh, profit center. And also I need income statements by legal entity for a particular corporation or company. You can also develop by region, by line of business, by legal entity. This particular income statement. So to develop that financial planning statement, yeah. So what you have to, so the steps to implement analytics cloud planning. Whenever we implement any SSE planning project, right? So first we need a detailed requirements. Detailed requirements means what you are going to implement. So the processes what you are going to cover should be documented. So in the preparation phase, so the first phase is preparation phase, then you have plan phase, then finalize phase. So I'm talking about particular SAC relevant planning implementation as for HANA financial planning implementation. So it typically follows preparation, planning. So when you are planning, you have an option to predict the data, and also you have an option to analyze the data. So the plan data you can analyze, actual versus plan data you can analyze, and to help you to help the user, they can use the predictive functionalities. So let's go with the next phase, that preparation phase. In the preparation phase, right? Most of the time, what we do, whatever models we need, whatever dimensions we need, based on the business requirement. Yeah, so when we talk with the customers, we understand whatever they want. So based on those, we are going to develop models and dimensions. And also, it's very important to you to understand the requirements so that the relevant content you can activate. So basically, SSC planning comes with some business content. So when I say income statement by line of business or by legal entity, by region, by whatever product or customer, all right. So possible product by customer income statements also possible in the sales and profitability plan. So let's say I want line of business by line of business my per income statement. So first you can check the content available, business content available. So if the content is available, all the planning models dimensions we will activate. After that, whatever, so when you activate the content comes with basic, only they come with the basic configuration like dimensions models. So these are the dimensions: company code dimension, profit center dimension, WBS cost center. So whatever dimension, version time, all those dimensions are built. And dimensions means master data, and models also they pre-built operational expenses, product cost, profitability, and capex and finance. They have different models. The models also enabled. If you want, you can use the same models based on the requirement, or else you can add. I mean, in the existing models, you can add dimensions, new dimensions possible. So in the when you build planning models and dimensions based on the requirement, there are some missing functionalities. So as I said, standard content don't come with all the all the possibilities, all the planning functionalities. So whatever missing functionalities you have to add. So for example, validation rules, right? You have to develop validation. So based on, for example, one if I plan against a cost center, system should automatically derive profit center and company code, because cost center, profit center, company code, there is a relationship. And we need to configure the data locking on top of those models. We need to create missing data actions, whatever new calculations they want. So allocation processes, and we need to create multi actions. Multi actions, different data actions you can execute. We are going to discuss. Also, so basically, we are adding more functionality related to that particular model. And we are going to, most of the in a project, most of the time you are going to spend in the story development. Yeah, create stories and workbooks. The planner basically going to open these particular stories, and they are going to input data, and they are going to perform the simulations in the stories. They are going to run the data actions, multi actions, in these particular stories. So we can, in the stories, we can develop value driver trees for driver based planning. And also we can add input templates, which are called planning tables here. In SSC, we just call it as planning tables. You can add planning tables here. Then we are going to set up the collaboration relevant things. Set up and assign tasks and processes. So whatever stories developed, that particular planner can share those stories with their buddies or their colleagues, and he can collect the data. So the whomever is responsible, the manager or whomever is responsible for the planning, he can collect the data from different sources, different performers. You can also set up, you can schedule the data actions means the calculations you can schedule, multi actions you can schedule. Yeah, you even data locking tasks you can schedule via calendar. You have an option calendar to set up or schedule all these tasks. So in the preparation phase, you are going to build the models, the dimensions, you are going to add additional functionality like all these validation rules, data locking, process controls, and if you want, whatever stories they want, whatever input templates the customer want. For example, operational expenses planning. They want one template for cost center expenses where they can plan a cost center, cost element, or primary cost account combination for a particular period. They want some rolling forecast templates, they want some forecast templates, they want some planning templates. So all those things developed here in this particular planning modeler phase, planning preparation phase. And collaboration tools also developed in the preparation phase. So in this, basically modeling happens in the preparation phase. Once this modeling is done, the model setups, everything done, next the planning phase starts. Preparation phase completed, then the planning phase starts. In the planning stage, the performers, reviewers from the customer, right? So we call it as performers, the planning performers or the planning reviewers. Here in SAC, as I said yesterday, you have a good option for the private versions, right? So there are two things. You can prepare your work using private version, personal version. Once you are satisfied with this private version, then you can move to the public version. So they input the data and they can share the data with the viewers. They can also make some interactive changes, and planners and the viewers can interactively change the plan data. They can share the templates. So here you can see, once once create and share the private version, and in that version the planners can enter the data using the planning tools. So this is the main phase. So I opened one planning table, I opened some stories, and I need to enter the data. To enter the data, I have all these options. You can see how many options written here. You can do the manual entry. Ad hoc planning means manual entry you can perform. You have planning panel to distribute the data. So that means you can plan at the top level and the data can be distributed. This is called distribution, top-down distribution. So in SAC, top-down planning is possible, bottoms-up planning also possible. And also you can add new dimension members. On the fly, you can add new dimension members. Right, allocations you can run from this planning tools, and you can run the data actions. You can even run the BPC planning processes. Now driver based planning also happens here. If you have one value driver trace, those you can execute for the simulations, and you can have calendars. In the calendars you can create process controls to organize your processes. So process control is basically like what are the steps to be performed by the performer or reviewer. You can list it in the process control. You can also use predictive forecasts to estimate your plan data. The planner can use predictive forecasting. So then once the planning is completed using the collaboration tools, you can share the content with the viewers, the reviewers. Viewers means in the reviewers. If you want to give some read access to some other users, you can give that one. And in all these pages, you have comment facility. Like you can create column. I mean, for every line item, you can add a comment. Every cell comment, you can perform column format, story comments, page comments. So many types of comments. All the comment functionality we can use. So once the planning is completed, the data is published, and so when the bad data is so the once the data is published, the teammates or the reviewers can review that particular data. Right. So the comment collaboration tools also available. So the planning is completed. Once the planning is completed in this phase, the planners, reviewers going to complete operational expenses planning, product cost planning, capex planning, sales and profitability planning, financial statement planning. All the planning scenarios are completed, submitted, right? And the final phase, right? So the in the final phase, basically the plan data, how you are going to send for the review. So here the submit data means here the planning is completed. Once the planning is completed, they are going to submit the data for the review. So in the this is all part of final phase. The reviewer can check that particular data. He can approve or reject that particular task, and then the data will be published using published version. So whatever planning data happened here, it's on the private version, for example. So it can be moved to public versions. So once the public version is published, all right, so once the data is published, you can set the data locks. Why? Because uh, the published version, right, so the approved version should not be changed. The data should not be changed. So we set the data locks. Locking data is basically uh, 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 setting the data locks, basically uh, uh, not allows to change. It won't, they can't change, the user cannot change. That's what set data locks. Then once the data is approved, the data is locked, then the data can be exported to the ACDoc P table in S4HANA system. So to export, there is a process, right? So when you go to the model, when you go to the data management, there is an export option. You can select the data, whatever. I mean, first you have to select the API, which API you want to use. So for example, you from the operational expenses planning, you want to export. Export means retract to S4 HANA. Cost rates you want to retract. Statistical key figures you want to retract. Retract in the sense export to S4 HANA. Right. So that option, and for example, cost center planning, you want budget availability, budget control based on the cost center. So these figures, once the plan data is approved, this data should be exported to the cost center controlling table, so that the export they can use budget availability control based on the cost center. So all these things is the last phase, final phase we will do. So always, once the data is locked, once the data is approved locked, then one time you can, 1 or 2 times you can export the data. So immediately don't export. So once the data is finalized, then we will export the data. Right. So these are the phases we are going to discuss. So in this course, I'm going to cover preparation phase, I'm going to cover planning phase, and I'm going to cover finalize phase. This export planning data, I'm not going to execute in the system. However, I will explain all the steps. So tomorrow, when if you are working for a customer, just follow those steps, you can execute the export. So I will tell you what APIs you have to use for it. So for example, if you want to allocate, if you want to export cost rate, what APIs you have to work, what mapping you have to do, what filter you have to select. If you want to export SKFs, what API you have to use, what filter you have to use, what mapping you have to perform. So the details, 99% we will cover. Only we will not execute because we don't have the system, right? So these things I'm going to cover. This is all about the overview of the course, right? Uh, so we will start the course from the next weekend. Yeah, next Saturday we are going to start. So when we start the course, I'm going to explain how to create a trial user. So we are going to create a trial user. So after creating the trial user, we will activate the content, and we will follow. We will create some dimensions, hierarchies, properties. We will create models. We will load the data. We will create storage pages. We will execute some data actions. All those things we will start from the next weekend. And it's an hands-on exercise, you will get hands-on practice, you and me both together going to work on the system, right? So now, any questions, please send an email to me. Please send an email to me if you are interested, so that I can send all the details. I will add you in the distribution list. Any questions?
Kiran, I
Yeah.
have a question. So here, you're preparing the planning for the financials, right? So
Hmm.
can we integrate the SAP actually, but you are logging into SAC separately, right? So will you able to integrate with SAP this one?
You in S4 HANA, so you can, from the
Yes.
apps, you can call these URLs, not a problem.
Okay,
So
from the
Fury
apps
apps
also
you
you
can
can.
use. Yeah, Fury apps you can
Oh,
configure. Yes.
okay, it
SAP
will directly
already
upload.
delivered. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I mean, in SAP, the ACDOC P table will be reflected when you enter this data into this SAC.
No. So once you complete the planning phase, once the finalization phase is completed, once when you export, then the data will be written to ACDOC table or relevant tables. For example, cost rates, there is a separate table, AC cost rate, right? So those tables, once you export only, you can see.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Kiran, when while exporting data to S4, do we have any customization like which table we want to populate, or how
So
we
those
would
are
be knowing like which?
so the APIs, when you are selecting the APIs in the description, you can see the rate, I mean the table name, which is from the source, right? If not, I will tell you, I will list out all the APIs required and which table it is going to hit.
And the models that we will be going to create. Let's suppose if we are not creating the standard model and we are
Mm,
creating a complete new custom model, so
mm.
that for that also we can retrofit the data in S4.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
any
using the
model,
same
so
API.
whatever model data, so once whatever, so for example, source and target, if you have all the fields whatever required in the target table and with the data, so you can export. It's not that only delivered content models you can export. Delivered content models or customized, I mean whatever models you created by your own, both the models data you can export.
Okay. Those only
Kiran,
will be covering for.
while exporting, for example, in SSC, in the planning model, we are having, for example, 20 fields, okay? But in
Hmm.
S4HANA ACDOC P table having 400 fields. So,
All
based
the
on the
not mandatory,
mapping, we
right?
need to map, is it?
So from the model, whatever dimensions are there, you are going to map to the target fields, target views, correct? So whatever in the, it might be having 100 fields, ACT.P might be having 120 fields, but whatever the required fields, those data will be updated. See, it's always based on the data cut. So right, operational expenses, one data cut. Product cost, one data cut. Data cut in the sense the dimension combination is different. Cost center expenses, meaning
If there
cost
is
center will be
no
on.
relevant field, for example, while
You
mapping,
can
if there
skip.
is no relevant field,
We'll
how we can
discuss
skip?
that one. We can skip. We'll discuss more
You are
details
covering
on export
security
planning.
also, right? Once we done everything, during the
Yeah,
data locking, we will cover all the security setup also, right?
yeah. Security setup and transport also will. I'm going to cover.
Okay, okay, thank you. Yeah.
Right.
Kiran,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
question. When you are doing this, when you are retracting the end-to-end data right from OPEX planning to the financial statement planning back to AC Doc P,
Hmm.
ultimately, what is the use case of sending that data there? Is it fine so that it can be used for BW reporting or within S4?
See here the plan data, right? So here SAP Analytics plan data. So you have some more data services to load the data, to import the data. You have some more data services to take the data. So these cost rates, these financial key figures, ACT.P table, you can use the allocations, planned allocations if you want to use it in S4HANA. So in the production orders, you can use this data. In the cost estimates, you can use this particular data. The actual posting. So all these green colors are there, right? So these are all available to check. So cost center available to check, you can use this particular data. So once it's moved to S4HANA, the users are all these are in S4HANA. For these things, you can use embedded analytics, as you said, reporting you can use.
Yeah, makes. Thank you.
Right. So we'll stop now. Any questions? Just send an email. Please send an email that if you are interested, I can send all the details. Yeah. Next weekend we are starting the sessions. Thank you. Have a nice day.
And Kiran, when will this course be finished?